Okay then, hello everyone. Let me put something on the screen here. Then you can see faces too. Well, the rest is deep silent, I hear. That's always nice. Well, good morning all. I hope you are excited as we are. Well, we're shitting our pants here because we never ever did this before, so this will be fun. Thank you all for joining in. Let me get this, what I was going to say.
Does chat actually hear us? We can ask them.
Oh, can we ask them? That's cool. But yeah, how long do you wait for a response?
I hope you can hear us.
Our chat.
Yeah. Yes, we see. Yes, we can.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, so we thought it was time for a live stream of the developers. Actually, this came to be that we are a bit annoyed that we're always in our bubble knowing what we want, but we have no clue what our players want. So we thought it would be good to rate some new features with some more people than just us. But this is literally the first time we stream, most of us, and this will be a disaster. So I strongly suggest you get a drink of any kind. I have my beer and do whatever you want. If you have any questions or remarks, just put them in chat.
Yeah, we need to turn the music down. We might need to turn the music down.
I can do that. The music is in the style of the game, let's put it that way. So anyway, before we begin, let's do a small round of who the hell we are and what we're doing here. So I'm Truebrain. I've been for the game like, 15 years. And I'm doing most of OpenTTD.org. With me I brought, well, I want to say 3 developers, but one is slacking late. So Frost and Michi with me. And we have one, well, I think the only sane, still alive, still with us, new GRF author for industries. You guys want to say anything?
Yeah, so I'm Frosch. When Transport Tycoon was released, I was like 13. And yeah, when I got an adult, I became a developer from OpenTTD since 2007 or something like that. Yeah.
So what he wants to say, he's old now.
He's old. Who's the oldest though? Am I the oldest? I might be the oldest.
I'm only the second oldest.
Aging gamers are like aging ravers. They just talk about the past and how things used to be. Doesn't do so well. I'm sure I'm the oldest.
Well, we can have a bet about that, but I believe you when you say it. You look like 50, so you win.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm not 50.
Oh. So right, the awkward silences we have too.
You have an agenda, Truebrain.
Yes, I do.
We do.
So first
like
we
thought. Planned it.
Yeah, well, plan is a big word, but we did our best to have some talking points. The first thing we want to talk about is a bit about the state of the current development of OpenTTD. I don't know if you guys are a bit in the loop of that, but for the last few months, it has been a bit quiet. This month, we did a lot. I think we added like 10 or 20 new features, and there are a few more on the rails. But mostly, as I mentioned earlier, we hit a bit of a place where we're like, yeah, there are all these nice features, but do they belong in the game? So we prepared some things for that, but that's a bit later. I'm just wondering, for the rest of the people here, how do you make sure the development for OpenTTD stays fun? And I'm looking at Andy first, because I know he uses a lot of words to explain what he thinks about things like new GRF and the frustration that comes with developing.
A lot of words. A lot of words. Eddie analysed who talks most in the channel, and I'm about half of it, and I'm talking to myself. It's just me, mostly.
So how do you keep
How do I stay sane? I mean, I've rage quit about 3 times, but I'm not a baby, so I come back, so it's kind of fun. How do you stay sane? Mostly I scratch my own itch. Like, if you want to do open source, you kind of have to give a bit more than you want to make it work. I mean, if you give too much, you kind of lose the love for it. So mostly I go back and do what I want to do. Mostly what I do is draw 8-bit pixels of really tiny things endlessly. So mostly I stick to doing that.
Does it matter that you can switch between drawing trains, drawing industries, drawing road vehicles?
No, I don't. I just draw. I just draw what's interesting and see how I can kind of push for the boundaries of the game and find what works and what doesn't. But then there are other periods of time where I kind of have to go and do like NML, or I have to go and clean up GitHub, or I have to kind of maybe cheer a few people up in the channel so they don't quit the project, or I have to go and work in the forums, or whatever it'll be, just to keep the project alive. There were a couple of years, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when, I mean, the joke is the game is dying, right? The game's always dying, games are always dying, everything's always dying. But
for 50 years now.
We're all dead in the long run. But a couple of years ago, it was getting really quite bleak. Like, the number of active committers was down to probably 1, which is probably Frosh. We were on SVN, it was dying. We were on FlySpray, it was dying. And a lot of work's been done the last couple of years to kind of standardize things, go back to GitHub, go to Git, change the build farm, change all the infrastructure, and just cheer everyone up about it, because it is a fantastic game. And when development is going well, it's really fun, but it was becoming a grind, and I was worried about the future of the project. But I think it's in really good shape now. It's really nice. It's happy times again.
I'm also amazed by how many people play this game. I can see the statistics about how many visits we get to the website. It's seriously insane, 15 years later, and people still enjoy it.
Also, Andy, you forget one important task you always do. This is when you complain again to us why something doesn't work like you want it to work.
Is this now a cliffhanger?
We lost Mitchie. Come back, Mitchie.
Oh, can you hear me now? Because I still see
you.
So
It works, yeah.
So again, sorry, I'm on quite a bad connection today. So if I have an occasional hang, please tell me.
There are pigeons flying back and forth.
Because I don't see that on my end. It just says everything is green. So sorry.
We'll let you know. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay. So no, what I was saying, don't forget any of your most important tasks. And again, when you're complaining to us why OpenTTD isn't doing exactly what you want it to do.
Yeah, I sometimes do that. Occasionally, I give feedback. Feedback is so useful. Everyone likes feedback, right?
Especially when it's positive feedback. Okay. Well, thanks, Andy. Michi, how do you stay sane? You do a lot of, OS X, Windows driver shit. Can I say that on stream? I think I can.
Oh, yeah, I'm not doing as much as I used to be, but which probably applies to most of us, that suddenly find out that actually having a day job is actually work.
Really?
But, yeah, it's a strange concept, I know, but it seems to happen. Other than that, basically I just do things I find interesting and that also mostly have nothing to do at all with my day job, so which sometimes ends up being some strange OS X, C++, whatever stuff that nobody will do anyway otherwise.
And nobody dares
If you didn't
touch.
do it, Mitchie, if you didn't do it, I wouldn't have a build, so I wouldn't be able to contribute. Because I ain't putting Windows on.
Yeah, we have this fun thing on ISC where Andy is our OS X tester. So anything that goes wrong with the OS X builds, he will find out first. Like literally first, and he will yell at us really loud because it's broken again. That is quite useful.
And maybe because I actually put something in without actually having an OS X machine to test, so sometimes it...
Good game.
Blind coding doesn't hurt anyone. And we lost him again. Aww.
Yeah, OS X was a wrong topic. OS X killed the stream.
Yes, he's sick and tired of it. Can't blame him. So, Vos, what's it for you?
Yeah, so initially I played the game a lot.
I think I'm back.
But besides OpenTTD, the core game, there are actually many different other things in the universe around OpenTTD, like NML or like the web translator or the wiki or anything else. So when the core game gets too boring, I usually can switch to a different tool around OpenTTD.
You ran OpenTTD for what, 2 years almost alone, I believe?
Yeah, maybe. Albert,
You kind of did, Frosh.
around.
It was you, and it was the web translator making commits I watched. So thanks for doing that, because otherwise the project would have died. There would have been no working compiles, no bug fixes, nothing. So yeah, thanks. It's good.
Yeah. And what does it for me is, well, take for example, I wrote a big blog post about our OpenTTD.org migration we did that last year. Fucking whole year it took, but whatever. And then you get these lovely messages from people, like emails like, oh, I can do this for you, or oh, I found this awesome that you did this. And those emails and those messages, that means more than most of the other, well, bullshit we have to deal with. It's a nice way of compensating, I would say. So that's what I always enjoy and like.
Well, there are definitely things which people want to do and things which people don't want to do, like the website, HTML and CSS.
Nice troll. Thanks.
We keep trying to find people that do HTML and CSS for us. They only survive like for a week and then they bail out real quickly.
I'm not getting reviewed on writing CSS. I'm not having people nitpick it. It's my job. It's what I do.
I can't blame you for not wanting to do it.
Yeah, give me absolute commit rights. I'll do the website, but I'm not getting PR reviewed by people who don't know what they're doing.
Oh, I think
I'm
there's
off a one-man project.
There's a lot more stuff than just HTML and the things that nobody really wants to do because it's not really fancy or you don't actually see it anywhere in the game.
Quite a lot of infrastructure, isn't there? I mean, if we list it, like there's the website, and there's the translator, and there's the server directory, and there's bananas, and there's like, I don't know what, like it just goes on and on.
Well,
How many services are there?
We lost count, honestly.
But they all kind of have to be up, and they have to be like security maintained, and like they have to work. It's like running a full set of services. That's quite a lot of work.
It really is, and as it goes with these things, people know where to find you when it breaks, and otherwise it's, well, cricket.
So maybe to find a segue, so someone in chat just asked, if we would restart OpenTTD, which language would we pick today? Still C++ or something else? All Python, all Wesson?
I'm really tempted to say brain fart, just because it's such a weird language. Honestly, for me, I think it will still be C++, maybe Rust these days, but there's really nothing wrong with C++. And most of the other languages, I doubt you can cross-port it to so many platforms that we can run on. I mean, this is running on Android. We have it running on a PSP and OS2 on call the weird-ass machine you can think of, and OpenTTD can run on it. I'm not sure that any other languages can.
What about PHP?
Go wash your mouth with beer now, thank you.
For a serious thing, I mean, what really works on most things would be the whole C#.NET stuff with Mono nowadays. It's also available for more or less every platform, I think.
Oh, there's a good question there. If you were to reprogram OpenTTD today, what features would you change or add or remove? You can. This is the pick your favorite feature to kill. This is my favorite game. What was our biggest mistake?
Not having it multi-threaded.
Ooh. Straight in with the big ones.
You can still add multi-threading for the drawing code. I don't think that is a problem.
Straight in with big things. I thought you'd say like boats or Toyland or. But no, straight.
Toyland has a place.
It does, yeah. You've got to try it.
Actually, Toyland is probably the one climate with the most interesting game design, actually, because it's different than the other three for some things.
I tend to agree. I troll Toyland, but I think I go and look at Toyland sprites sometimes for inspiration. I think it's really nice.
Yeah, Thailand has like the most animations, and interestingly also the most difficult economy.
Yep.
Which is like completely beside the point, but yeah, it's the hardest from the base economies.
And nobody plays it. It's so sad.
It's the it's the grid. It's the tile grid in the base set.
The
I use the
graphics
original
are
graphics.
a bit of a taste if you like them or not. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's a bit. Yeah, maybe.
There's also a nice question. If you guys had financing to hire full-time devs, what would be different compared to the current development process? Well, like
We'd have to do more HR. We'd have to have a lot of meetings. We'd have to have HR, liability insurance, like management. I mean, that's kind of my day job. It wouldn't be any fun. We'd have to do like performance reviews and all. Oh dear, imagine. I just know.
Okay, but if we can skip that, I think one of the biggest things we can really change is streamline development workflow. Because currently, yeah, reviews have to be done by volunteers. And that means that you have to do a shitty job because reviewing rarely is fun instead of making fun new features. So that really takes you away from what you want to do in the free time that you have. So yeah, if you had some paid people, that would be a lot easier, but then you get paid for doing reviews. That, in my opinion, is a lot less worse than in your free time doing that. At least that may be occupational hazard for me, but...
I mean, we could probably pay them to sit and do things like maintain the compiles and find out why it doesn't work on a Mac properly and etc. And like...
Yeah, let them do the shitty jobs. That's what I wanted to say, yes.
Yeah. So the things that make the project work, cross-platform reliably, like just the grinding, paying for that. And there are people who like doing that kind of job. They'll sit and maintain like multi-platform compiles all day long quite happily, and they'll just update like Apple break Xcode. Great, just fix it. Yeah, if we had money, we could do that. I don't know. Money's not the project's problem, though, is it?
No, people is.
That's my job. Good evening.
Oh, here's someone speak.
Where's my camera? There's my camera. See my face. Oh, I can see the top of my head.
A joiner.
Now you have the wrong face. Oh my god.
Wrong face.
Layout.
Wrong face.
Good hat use.
Let me fix this.
If we're gonna do this, I don't know. I can't get them on.
Wonderful.
There we go. If we're gonna go hats.
Yeah, so Santa has just arrived.
Are we doing introductions?
Go for it. I will fix OBS.
He's replaced
while
Mitchie,
you,
He's kicked Mitchie out.
Yeah, and you did the introductions with Arrow. I will fix that.
He can introduce himself. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi.
How did you get into OpenTTD?
Oh.
What is it like to be with so many old people on one project?
Played TTD at some point, and then...
He's got an audio problem. His levels are too low. Turn your levels up.
Has it gone down again?
Well, this is what happens when people join in late, guys. So this is why
Some
we
of us
retest things.
rehearse. Some of us rehearsed like professionals.
Balance my laptop on my knees.
Well, just speak loud and clear and you will be fine. Would you add phishing to OpenTTD? What is it with you and phishing? What is the obsession? You have to explain that first before we can judge this. Well, and as a good host goes, I have someone ringing at my door, so I'll be right back. Andy, the floor is yours.
You did say you do this, so there's a good question in the chat. I can't say the guy's. Assume it's a guy. Don't know if it's a guy. Shouldn't assume that. Lots of people asking for things that already exist in OpenTTD. In some cases, that's new graph. I don't know. Anyone says that word. I say graph. Could there be more in the public website about what the same is capable of? Our graphs too is the mod. Can we call them mods? Can we call them mods? Everyone calls them mods. Discord calls them mods. Reddit calls them mods.
GRFs.
We should call them mods. They're mods. Don't know what this GRF thing is. My kids call them new graph.
Mods make them sound like a Minecraft thing.
They're mods. Anyway, do they need to be easier to find? There's a question. That kind of implies new bananas, doesn't it? Oh no, new bananas comes around to me doing it. I'm not doing new bananas.
That's a thing now. You add
Yeah.
search to it because
Add search.
Farm that out to Google, like we do.
Pictures. Bit of
Pictures would be nice.
Graphtopia. Has Graphtopia been deleted with the move of infrastructure, or did you archive it, Frosh?
What do you mean? What has been deleted?
Graphtopia, your long spec for how you would know what's inside a graph before.
No, that is in the essay section on the new wiki.
Is it?
On all those long talks about what the economy should be instead.
So the idea would be that you could preview inside a mod. Let's call it a mod. And see what's in there. So you might see what vehicles are in there, and you might see what industries are in there, and you might see its start date and end date. And I was thinking about this the other day, but really authors could just put better descriptions in, and we could write loads of code, automate it, and make it all great, handle all the edge cases that the mods can produce, or authors could just put more descriptive things in. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think that there's a lot that could be just basic information on the in-game interface and stuff, and even if it's just pictures that the author puts in, so it's still a lot of things that could be added there.
So you could have like, I don't know, like 6 preview images or something. And maybe we could just have a convention that if it's a vehicle set, you say when the first vehicle's available or something. Hey, stuff like that could be easy, right? Will I add horses to Iron Horse? No, probably not. I don't want to animate them. I don't want to animate their legs. Are there more good questions?
There are horses in, what is it, GRVTS or?
Yeah, horses are widely available. Timberwolf has horses. We should have invited Timberwolf to talk about his horses. He's got voxel horses. It's quite remarkable. That's an interesting new trend, actually. So the voxel thing might become real. Timberwolf's doing loads of voxel things. And Tyler is doing a voxel house set and a train set, which might just turn pixel art on its head. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But it's an interesting new trend. I like new trends.
Yeah, so I think for the add-on selection, the long-term idea is kind of to put more stuff into bananas, that you can actually see preview pictures on bananas and then like see some screenshots before you download it. So currently there's some mixed information. Some people add wiki links to their add-on content. Others create forum posts. So currently you have to put a lot of research into the add-on before you know what it does and whether you want it or not.
Part of me wonders whether we might want to consider some sort of more curated stuff, because I mean the list is getting quite long these days of just stuff which is, well, full of.
It's remarkable sometimes how much there is.
All sorts
occasionally,
of stuff. Well, some of which you know, I think there's a couple of GRF version 1 stuff which I always have to filter out, just delete from my thing, because I get a kernel console log message every time it starts up otherwise.
Yeah, we deleted those in the new bananas migration, so they are no longer around.
How many are in there? So just new graph. Let's have a look. Doesn't say how many there are. There's loads.
Something like 1,000 or something like that, yeah.
And there is, I mean, it's kind of a golden age for this stuff getting made. Like, it goes through periods of kind of activity and not activity. I don't think it's just 2020 and pandemic. I think there's a new cohort of people making like really quite polished, sophisticated graphs, and it's a good time for it. It's really nice to see all this stuff coming through. And the Discord's really busy, and the Reddit's busy, and there are people in the forums, and graph constantly churning out, and new versions, and it works. I think, I mean, stuff takes a while, but it's been a big factor in that, like a huge factor. So I wrote my first test with NFO. I learned a lot. Programmable. I learned a lot about computer science and programming from doing NFO, which was really helpful for many reasons. But NML has really just changed the game for making it accessible so people can stick new things in. I think that's gone really well. And then we've had some good kind of reuse culture. So there's sets like Realistic UK, I don't know, RUCTs, what we call it. I don't know what it actually stands for. They'll tell me in the chat in a minute because they're probably in there. So RUCTs is built on like Pika stuff, and just Furs has got like 6 or 7 forks that I'm aware of, and people are just reuse and adapt. It's really good. It's a good time for content. Pleasing to see.
I've also seen a somewhat related question on chat a bit ago, if there was anything in mods or Newgrass that we would actually want to add to the base game. And I think for that, the answer is quite clearly no. If it's possible by mods, actually we don't usually want to add it to the base game. We just want to add stuff that's not possible by mods.
It's sort of a loaded question around that one, and we kind of need Truebrain to come back from his food delivery. And that Truebrain has quite strong opinions on this at the moment, but he doesn't have a spec yet.
Yeah, but the opinion is clear. I mean, we mostly want to add stuff to the base game that you can't do in mods. I mean, which means either things that are simply doesn't make sense for mods, or enable more mods to be made.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff that doesn't make sense. Stuff that doesn't make sense, for example, is things like whatever a new video driver or a new platform or some supported computer platform or something like this. This is something that you can't do that as a mod. You have to do that in the game.
So it's kind of one of the big discussions that's going on at the moment. So there's a few big things going on. One is, I don't know if Truebrain wants me to talk about this. I'll find out. I'll just talk.
Well, go for it. There's nothing you can say that I'll find hateful.
So one big thing is when the first JavaScript compile of OpenTTD came out in a browser, it's kind of novelty, like WTF. Someone's actually done that, and then we looked, and it kind of works. So what we have a couple of years later is we've got a WASM is the acronym. I don't know how everyone else says it, but I say WASM.
WebAssembly.
WASM is particularly funny in English, UK English. So that's quite a nice acronym. But we have a WASM build. We can pretty much build any PR from GitHub to a WASM client that you can try in the browser. Someone else explain it better than me, please.
Well, you're doing fine, but we'll show that in a bit. How about that?
Why not? So we'll preview it in a while. How about that?
Was that the segue to show it?
So the WASM build unlocks kind of easier testing and features. Instead of having to pull the PR off GitHub, build it, start a game, like you can just go in a browser and test the feature, and it will really open up who can preview things. So that'll be really good. The second thing going on that's big is
I'm just going to show it. Sorry, now you have to remember the second thing.
I can hold a thought in my head for at least 30 seconds.
So we now have on GitHub a lovely button all the way to the down on View Deployment, and we click that, and it loads the game. And we can load save games, and we can play the game. That all from a browser. And it works, well, pretty smooth. It's, well, smooth enough. And almost all functionalities work, with the exception of fast forwards. That's not, this is
show the browser bar. Prove you're in a browser. Show me the browser bar.
Oh, I did not prepare for that. There's too much private information in there. So wait.
They'll think you're faking it.
No, I can prove it.
Well, give chat the link. They can try it.
It's real. Put it in the chat.
See, it's a browser.
It's the game in the browser. Oh, don't show the magic underneath. That'll scare them.
So yeah, this is really cool. Really accelerates in the speed we can review things, because we don't have to build it, we don't have to download it, we can just play it. So that's really cool.
Good. That's pretty cool. Second thing, if I may, can I talk second thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Second thing is, it looks like a discussion about cryptography and how you authenticate with servers, kind of in multiplayer how you would get in and like get to your company or whatever. But really, it's a sort of trajectory towards cloud saves and being able to store your OpenTTD games in the cloud being someone's computer somewhere, probably Jeff Bezos's computer if he keeps giving us credits. Jeff Bezos' big computer. Imagine how big it is. Anyway, cloud saves.
Are we still talking about the computer, or is this?
We'll skip the computer. So the discussion about cryptography and kind of getting into multiplayer creates the idea you could have an identity. If you can have an identity, you can have cloud saves, and then things get kind of interesting. What are the upsides, Truebrain?
The upsides of cloud save? Do we really have to explain that?
Kind of self-obvious, isn't it?
Well, just that you can save your game everywhere you go. So no matter where you are, you can just log in and download your save and continue. That would be the dream. If you can pull that off, that would be cherry on top.
So that's kind of big infrastructure stuff, which would be really good. And then the third discussion is kind of harder discussion because we don't really know how to kind of move it on or even what the words are. But more of the game needs to be content. It's quite clear the vision of the of OpenTTD was move things to content. So we've got graph and we've got game scripts and we've got AI. We can do vehicles, we do industries, we do cargoes, we can do houses, we can do objects, we can somewhat do towns a little bit. But there's things we can't do. And that causes limitations and it causes feature requests. And basically feature requests like the worst thing in the world. Like it's my day job and my hobby as well is dealing with feature requests. It's a nightmare. But Truebrain, I think your vision on this is kind of stronger, which is how much of the simulation should be content.
Let me give a good example about that. Maybe that helps a bit. So we have here a pull request of Eddie, in this case, making a change that you can have more flexible town spacing. And a nice image in there, and quite honestly, this looks amazing. I mean, yeah, I like these kinds of patches. One of the biggest problems for OpenTTD is if we accept this patch, the next person comes and tweaks another thing how a town should look. And then the next person comes and tweaks how many big buildings there should be and how many suburbs there should be. And there's just an endless way to make variety to towns, and it never stops. So if we keep accepting these pull requests, well, the code would be completely unmaintainable. So what we would much rather would do is move this to some way of modification in whatever form, a new GRF, a game script, whatever you can think of, just something that controls how the layout looks. That means that all of a sudden everyone can just go nuts with how they want the towns to look and make it pretty, and they can share it via bananas, and then anyone else can download it too and can enjoy it too. And so you get a lot more flexible in your code, while the code itself becomes a lot easier to maintain. So although I love these kinds of pull requests, in my opinion, this is not something we can accept, just purely for the burden of maintaining it. Don't know if others think different about that.
I mean, we tend to talk about like the code issues and like it has to be orthogonal so that things don't interact, and like combinatorial problems where one setting combines with another setting and etc. But actually the real problem is just reviewing. Like even reviewing to find out those things is more time consuming than we kind of have. And by contrast, if you had to do industries in trunk in the main game, I've made 6,000 commits to FERS. So someone would have had to review 6,000 commits, then I'd kind of have to nitpick argue them for 6,000 commits. And it just wouldn't have worked.
Not it.
Some things in the game can't be done that way. And they need to be. Well, they don't need to be, nothing needs to be, but it would be really nice if they did.
Well, you can even take that further. Now imagine that next to first, there would also be all the ECS commits, and then someone would actually have to check each and every commit if nothing from first breaks ECS and vice versa and so on, which is basically also the same. That settings are in one sense nice, but they are also a really, really high maintenance nightmare. If you have settings all over, then it's just so many dependencies that you have to check that can break that it's really, really hard to do something about that.
Yeah, and what I find most difficult about it is that we are closing pull requests with good features that we purely close, not because they are bad features, but just because the way it's implemented is not maintainable for us. And that's just, those are the hardest to close. Like, no, I want this, close.
Yeah. And if they were in, let's call it a mod, because we don't know what the format would be, but call it a mod, people could scratch their own itch. They could just ship it. They ship it. It goes on bananas. People like it. They don't like it. People report bugs. They don't report bugs. It says in the contributing guide, if mods don't work, mods don't work. I ask my kids, what happens when Minecraft mods don't work? They're like, well, they just don't work. That's what it is. So we want to move to that. But I think we're kind of somewhat arguing with ourselves. So why did the inertia go out of, like, we did industries, we did trains, and we did ships, and we did everything, and then the inertia kind of went out of the content. So is it just that people got day jobs, or did it just get boring, or are there just not enough people? Do we just need more contributors to kind of push this forward? Because no one out there in the player base is saying don't make it more moddable. There's not a single person who's ever said that.
I think one of the main problems there is that these are huge jobs. It's not something you do on a whim. For example, the economy, it is littered all over the code how economy works. And we have the weirdest things like inflation, recessions, disasters that interact with it. Getting that out cleanly takes you to know the code really well, which not many people do. I dare to say I don't, and of the people here, maybe Fosh knows the code well enough, but that's about it. No offense to the rest. But it's so difficult to get it out cleanly and make something that is workable for all the use cases you can think of. That for most people, it's just too big of a job. Never mind, I just scratch my itch and make this one patch that changes this one thing, so I'm happy. I think that's one of the more difficult parts of OpenTTD currently. We did all the easy stuff, I would like to say.
Yeah, so I think for the most projects, you need more than one person. One person alone has like a single, very strong opinion, but it's actually not compatible with anyone else's opinion. And if you have at least like 2 or 3 people, then you get a more general idea how you can find some frameworks that maybe fits for multiple people.
So when a lot of the kind of 0.7, 0.8 kind of big graph API stuff was happening, someone in the chat said graph is like a dog barking. Anyway, I call it graph. I'm sticking with it. But that stuff was also in a time when there were kind of strong communities like OpenTTD Co-op. So Co-op were really pushing the game. They were active. Some of them were devs, and they were playing intensive multiplayer games, and they were pushing the game, but they were also building, they were contributing directly to Trunk, and they were building some of the toolchain. They basically built NML, and they had a strong community, and that community kind of fell away because naturally people get jobs and go away. Like, that's the nature of it. But the exciting thing at the moment is we've discovered things like the Discord community are really active and like really enthusiastic, and forums is kind of slightly back alive again, and it looks like there's potential. There's people out there. There's interest. Maybe we can attract.
I like this
more
question
contributions.
that interacts with that. How can you guys make it easier for someone like me with C++ knowledge, willing to spend hours contributing to help out? Well, I think that's a very good question and a very difficult answer. I think what works best is just start somewhere, just scratch that small itch you have in the game and dive into the code. You will be surprised the comments you find like, we don't know what this does, but it works, so leave it. And work your way from there. But honestly, it takes some effort.
Yeah, I would actually even say, I mean, I don't think it's really possible for us to make somebody else more willing to work on this. It doesn't work that way. It just has to be something that person likes, wants to do, doesn't like, whatever. So I don't think we can give somebody else the motivation. So it has to come from the person itself. After that, we can help, but I think the initiative has to always come from the other person, or basically the fun will go away almost immediately at the start if you are somehow forced to do it in some way.
So we did do some things. We deliberately moved to GitHub to make it easier. We maintain the build across many platforms to try and keep it easy. So there are like VS Code or whatever they're called projects and all the things try and make it easy to just pull the repo, download it, compile, go. It even mostly works on a Mac, mostly. It's remarkable. We wrote a contributing guide. We I cleaned up all the crappy old wiki dev docs, such as they were. I was tempted to delete them, but I was asked not to. And we do try and make it easy. And then there's a kind of this recent push to try and review the pile of PRs again. Like, so PR is pull requests for those who aren't devs. There are about 60 or so, maybe 55 now. I can't keep track, but sitting on GitHub, people who've tried to contribute something, and they kind of go off and sit there for a long time because reviewing is hard. And that's tricky. But the initiative to try and get some through is partly about trying to keep people's contributions coming through so people feel valued. They learn about the project and they join in and do more. But then we run smack back into a lot of the PRs are for things that aren't going to make trunk because we're solving the wrong problem. And what we really need to do is be clear that we should push to finish the content APIs.
Actually, also one thing for the pull request to say is also not every pull request is actually really waiting somebody with programming knowledge. There are quite a lot that actually need more like player opinions and not really programmer opinions. And this is something that I would say basically players don't really find their way to GitHub, more like none at all. This is quite a problem because we have lots of things that are somewhat stalled because they actually need player feedback. And even on other channels, I mean, we've done that before, IRC, for TT forums, whatever, you really get not much player feedback for many things. It's always been hard to actually get feedback in any form.
That was why co-op was so useful, because co-op they'd run the nightly server and then they'd play really intensive multiplayer games. Like really, like you look on co-op, the stuff they were doing was mad. And that was a really good source of really rapid feedback.
But shall we just take a pull request as an example where we struggle with? Maybe chat can help us a bit to...
Yeah, actually, if you can pull that over.
So let me show one. Sorry, go for it.
So I have a bit to say. Please let me know if I drop out while, but otherwise, so basically this is code-wise, this is super simple and
and he got out. Oh, sorry. This is brilliant. Oh, poor Michi.
There is a certain uncomfortable truth in that as devs, we don't generally play the game anymore. Not properly anyway. We test out the thing that we're doing, but we don't.
I think I'm back.
Okay. You play the game fully end to end, but it's been a while.
I think the last time I really played this game was in 2006. I'm not even kidding.
Okay, am I back? So,
yes, you are.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you're good.
You're good. Yeah, it's well, it's a bit. I mean, it's probably for most people. So with all this COVID.
Oh, Mitchie's dropped.
I shouldn't laugh about this, but this is what technology gets you guys. So yeah, let me just explain this pull request. So basically, normally when you start at the map in 1920, then inflation just walks up normally. But when you start in like 2000, it doesn't. So all prices are still back on the original price, which gives quite interesting problems. That means the later you start, the easier the game is in some sense. And this patch is really easy. It just calculates the right inflation. Well, I like showing off new features, so I'm going to press this. Oh, where is my button? There should be a few here. So I can start this game. And normally I'm in, well, not in this. Let me put it back here. So when I start in 9050 and I check out my trains, I can see that my train, let's take the Ginzu, cost 40K. This will also be true if I start, let's say, in 1,000 years later in a normal game. But this is the modified version. So now when I start a game, that same train will cost me a whopping 729k, which is quite a difference from the original cost. That's all this pull request does.
Yeah, bad feature. Not
Yeah,
good,
it costs more.
terrible feature.
Well, Misha can
Yeah,
better
so mad.
explain the background behind it.
Let's see if I'm if the stream will let me talk now, or if I'm going to drop out again. So let's see. Basically, I mean, the point is this varying inflation, or basically like it is now. You have the inflation starts at the start game here, which means that basically a certain train from a certain train set will always cost the same value at the start game here. Unfortunately, this means that if you have a vehicle progression in the game and actually try to balance it with the cost and the incomes, you have basically a target you can't really meet. It's always different. So some people have solved that simply, like mostly Andy, I think, by simply ignoring inflation totally and just saying, if you switch inflation on, my set is crap, don't do it. Some others, like for example, the DB set basically says, okay, I assume people start in 1920, and if they start somewhere else, costs will be totally out of whack, and I don't care about that. And basically, this PR would be an idea to how to get that to a fixed level. So basically saying that inflation is always on a fixed level from fixed start and end here, then you have a known fixed target where you can balance your set against. So it's not some random start, but you have a fixed frame which you can use as a reference.
And the way I look at inflation, all these patches should just be declined and inflation should just be removed from the game. I mean, fuck inflation.
You can do it in content. Just delete it. But then someone will have a save game somewhere and they've got a particular playstyle. So it's easy for me to say, just delete it, right? But in Discord, in like 1 hour, you can see people doing like speed runs, world record. Like they'll be in the chat somewhere. I don't even understand the speed run thing, but it's remarkable. Like hacking graphs to make speed runs that you can complete the game in a minute. And then on the other hand, there's a guy building like a complete one-to-one replica of the German rail system. And that's spread as everything. And then off on another corner is complete like newbies to the game on Reddit figuring signals out. So just delete inflation is not as simple as it sounds. I would just delete inflation. Because sometimes you've got to break eggs, right? Progress. Things get broken. But the game has to account for so many playstyles. It's like it's one person's train set and it's another person's like speedrun challenge. And someone else is building like logic simulations of CPUs in it. So it's quite a responsibility, and it's quite rare that I can persuade anyone to sort of just delete things, which would be my preferred route.
That's
can always
the problem
put it
that we
back.
have. We have no real way of rating such pull requests. It sounds good code-wise. Just approve it, let's go for it. I mean, there's nothing holding us back from doing that. But yeah, what's the impact on the game? How many people are going to complain about this pull request? How many are going to be joyful that this finally got merged? We don't know. And we also honestly don't really have a way to get information like that.
And yeah, mostly only get squeaky wheel. So like you get the negative feedback, but you don't get many people saying, I'm really glad you've done that. You get a few. But generally you get the one really like upset guy that's in the XKCD about you've broken my workflow. Someone should post that in the chat. I'm not on Twitch, I can't do it. But if you make a change, someone somewhere is going to be cross.
And also the point is, whatever there is, you only get the comments afterwards. I mean, one example I actually wanted to quote for that is infrastructure maintenance, where I actually had their IRC discussions, forum threads, several things where we actually asked before committing that about like, are the values that in good, are the values bad or whatever. I mean, feedback before merging was 0, like nothing at all. I mean, now people complain and say, yeah, airport maintenance is totally high and whatever, but basically beforehand, nobody said actually anything. So you mostly get the feedback only afterwards, which basically makes deciding if that's something to do or not quite a bit difficult.
And most, I was kind of stereotype, but most of the core devs they're not going to enjoy like social conflicts with people. It's quite a programmery kind of.
You can call us nerds. That's not a problem. We used to that.
You said it, not me. But it just takes the fun out of it. If you're going to spend 2 hours in the evening, like digging through fairly, in some cases, complex code with complex cases, and then some guy on a forum pops up and starts bagging on you for ruining his save game, isn't normally his as well, ruining his save game. We don't have enough girls playing this game. That's an odd thing, actually. But we'll talk about that another time. Then some of the programmers who program, they're just going to retreat and go, I can't be bothered with this. I'll just go and do Minecraft instead. Yeah, what Drury said. Your update murders children. Like, there's a lack of sort of perspective sometimes as well. I think that's put it pretty well actually in the chat. I like that. All caps as well.
To give another example of pull requests we get, is for example this one. That nothing against the author. Let's be clear. We're very happy with every pull request we get, but these kinds of changes are always a bit hard for us to judge if they are a good idea, a bad idea. Should we do it immediately? Should we never do this? So what is this about? Well, again, let me start. I made this. Can I be proud of this? That I can just press the button? I can. I think I can. So I can start again. And what this changes is that if I go now to my landscape and I go to destruction, there are 3 buttons here. I can just demolish everything as normal. I can only do trees. Or if I build something, I can make it only destroy the.
That's so cool.
Only destroy the rails.
I need this.
It sounds awesome, but my deeper problem here is, if I hold back to this, is there's not really a reason why we should have this. I can think of a million reasons, but I don't know why this user made this. Or when I delve in here, it was an ID from, and I have to click 5 times, and I get a bit of an idea why people would want it. But I don't know. Maybe it annoys 20 people and only makes 1 person happy. It's so difficult to rate the features, not only to look at the code, because reviewing code is easy, but how do you judge it?
So this PR has a special case about like company property and about trees. So, but when I use a demolition tool, I personally wonder about demolishing rivers or water, or maybe houses or town property, or maybe I don't want to clear land or something like that. So what I'm missing from the PR is like an argument, why is trees so special? And I didn't get that at all.
And I like that you asked a question from chat. Could you not make this in a setting? Well, let me give me your opinion. Give me my opinion. So, okay, I'm there. About that, where was my preview again?
So when you take Factorio as an example, in Factorio you also have this selective demolition planner. And you can basically select every entity of the game, whether you want to remove it or not. There's like a huge interface and you can do everything with it. I'm not sure whether you want that for OpenTTD, but yeah, that would be everything for everyone.
Sounds really useful. Let's talk about the settings. These are the current settings that we have if you go to the expert mode. There are so many settings in this game.
I don't know what most of these do.
That like 10 years ago. Yeah.
I set some and then I step away from this window and never touch it again. The game's unplayable if you change some of these.
So like 10 years ago, we made it a bit of a thing, like we should stop adding settings. We should really not add more to them. If we add one, there should be a really good reason to do so.
Maximum bridge height. What even is?
And I mean,
why do I need a maximum bridge height?
We already think we already mentioned that earlier, of course, that all these settings is also a code maintenance nightmare because you have just so many combinations that can break in interesting ways.
Yeah, so if I want to play with conditional orders and transfer orders and every micromanagement, everything, and if then someone else wants to play with cargo distribution, you have a direct conflict because those things just don't fit together.
Oh, Chris in the chat, I'm assuming it's Chris. I'm guessing it's Chris, it might not be Chris. Adding settings is JGR's job, and that is kind of really useful. We've got a really good big patch pack at the moment. I get cross about JGR sometimes because I get bug reports for Furs and other sets because of features in JGR, and I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do about that. But JGR is actually fantastic. it's like a safety valve for all those features that everybody wants to see that can't really be put into trunk. And it is really incredibly useful for that. Problems with JGR is we haven't done much about kind of folding any of the. There's loads of technical improvements to JGR under the hood that probably need to be evaluated for TTD, OpenTTD. Some of the like user interface features are probably not going to make it in because they'd be quite overwhelming, and it's just more settings, which is not the direction of travel. But there are other things in there that we ought to be looking at. But you know, there's a reviewing burden, and there's not many people who can review. What JGR is really good for is all those players who really want to push the game, and that's fantastic. The downside is that because the players who really want to push the game are playing JGR, trunk isn't really getting tested very much. And people aren't turning up and saying, oh, I'll test this PR because it's gone into JGR, or like JGR's got a cool feature. So those players are playing JGR.
Did
and
you
that's
just
great.
Say trunk? Sorry.
What is?
Oh, we left trunk ago like 3 years ago.
Oh,
That's no longer
whatever.
a
I'm an
thing.
old man. Truebrain, I'm an old man.
Let's
I'm an
call us
old man. Look at my
vanilla.
hair.
I mean, GR
Vanilla.
also has a master.
Yeah, what like
Don't
the
worry,
official client.
We're still
official
not
build isn't-
politically correct. Our branch on GitHub is also very, 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 very bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't call it master today anymore. That's
Oh, no,
that's
you
just
can't.
no.
No,
Yeah.
just main. I want to reply to Arnold, I think, talking about trees. He has a whole story about trying to get the code so trees work. Let me give you an example how difficult it is to do these kinds of things. This is a preview of code made by one of the developers, and he tried to make it that you can drag. Like I can select, and I can make like trees like this. The idea of that is that I can drag my mouse that it does all these trees. At least the tooltip says so. It doesn't work. It is hellish to make drag and drop work in OpenTTD, we found out. So no, you're not a bad programmer. This is just really hard to figure out.
Rory has called it. Is OpenTTD a JGR spin-off? Kind of, yeah. Kind of is. Sort of a one-man project. Alone, with no support and no infrastructure.
And that particular bug is a perfect example of how useful the previews is, just because there's no way we would have spotted that if it was just in code. We'd have read the code, would have read the tooltip text, and then yeah, I'm sure that's fine. Push it, and then we found then now we've got to actually make it work. But as it is, we found it beforehand, and then we can fix it beforehand. And I will fix my mic level, which is apparently look quiet.
Yeah, I turned you up on my side too. Hopefully that helps.
Now
if you do it
super loud.
yeah, there's always a chance for that. Yeah, the train never breaks, don't worry. So back to the script I wrote, like that succeeded today. That's fully okay. Frost, you wrote some things down about the group PRs that we have. One of the 7, I think. You want to show that?
Yeah, sure. So the groups have kind of this competition with shared orders. So I think I had a game prepared. Yeah, so my push to talk always opens a minimap. This is kind of hard. Do you actually still hear me?
We do.
Yeah, you're still on.
Okay, so I'll just keep the minimap in the corner and show the groups. So what is actually new, what was added in the last days, that when you have this group list open, yeah, then it was very common that you just create like a group for every pair of shared orders. So, but now a contributor actually added this feature. You can at the top group this by shared orders. And then the list changes. The list no longer shows one row per train, but one row per group of shared orders. So now we have here a group of like 5 trains. Here we have a group of 5 trains, and we can click here, and we get another list which just shows this trains here. So this was added last week. So if you play a very recent version from this week, then you have this feature. So on that essentially means that these old groups, you no longer need them. Yeah, you can, because these group, the way you did it before, they only have one member now. So this was a really nice addition. But of course, there are now still more PRs of this. So there are currently like 3 or 4 open PRs about group management. And in context of this new feature, they're all kind of, you have to reevaluate them whether they still make sense. So maybe we can take a look there. So this was basically the feature which was just shown. So the author was Bitsy or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. So, but now there are. So there's this group management enhancement PR. So on this one actually addresses the same problem. It also tries to address the problem that you have one group per group of shared orders. This one actually does it by renaming groups automatically. So in this case, you can take the shared orders and then put them into the one group, and then the patch or this PR will assign a name automatically. So in this case, this is like a group where ore is transported, or here's livestock is transported, or there are passengers, and then it creates a group name pattern matching the orders of these trains. So this is in itself also a nice feature. But if you now compare it with the other feature that essentially removes the needs to have these groups entirely, then you have the question: do you still want that, or is that actually any point left?
He's asking the difficult questions in life.
So this is like a group PR which actually contains multiple features, and now you have also, of course, the problem that like one of these partial features, one of these commits, kind of makes no sense anymore. But there are also more commits in them, and yeah. So I can show another feature from this PR which is still open, and that is if you take like a group train here, you take the old version, and then if you drag it on this new group button, it will create a new group and put this train into it. So when I saw this PR, I was first wondering, but we already have that. Yeah, because already in like for years, you can take this train and drag it here, and then it will create a new group. Yeah, so I was wondering why was that added to also create the group when you put on this button. And then I tried a bit more, and actually found if you fill up this list here, if you just add more groups, so if you now take the train, then actually you can't create a group. So this feature, which is in OpenTTD for I don't know 10 years, is actually kind of broken once you fill up the list. So now I'm wondering, was this new feature to add this button, was it created because this does not work, or was it created as an alternative? Or should rather maybe this get fixed, that you can create this group by dragging or so on. So essentially we have now 2 ways to create a new group by just dragging, and I don't think it is a good idea to have both.
I personally always like simple UIs. That's the one thing you have to do is obvious and simple, that are not 12 ways to the same endpoint. But I think our UI is full of ways to do things in many ways. But I agree with you, there should only be one way and that should be sufficient. But yeah, which one?
There's a bit of precedent, there's a kind of bit of history in the nature of open source is that someone comes along and makes a commit to a bit of the UI, and then another commit to a bit of the UI, and then someone else does a commit to it. And good UI is I mean, UI is normally made by having like a vision of what it's supposed to do and then building it. It's kind of different to how open source works. But we've seen things change, like the new graph window. Albert just rebuilt completely, and there was some debate, and I was like, I don't agree with all you've done, and I did an alternative design. But he was like, well, I've done it, and it all works. But he'd done all of it. He hadn't done a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit, and then someone else did a little bit. He just did all of it, and that it was improved, and it was clearly better. Auto replace had kind of, I can't remember why you did it, Frosh, but auto replace had sort of been poked at here and poked at there, and then one day you just turned up with a new auto replace, like the whole thing, for some reason that I can't remember, but it was to support some other feature. But someone had looked at it and gone, look, I can see you're trying to like patch this bit together and then kind of stretch this bit over to make it work, but somebody has to just pick the window up and kind of fix it. The orders window is kind of heading the same way, and the groups window is kind of heading the same way. Like groups is creaking under the things that are getting jammed onto it. Really, someone just needs to cohesively rebuild it, which will piss some people off. But if we want a good UI out of it, one person has to make a good UI. That's how good UI is done. End of my point.
Yeah, actually, the groups window isn't even the worst offender. I think the whole order timetable window actually tops that.
Oh,
still.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we want to add more buttons there.
What does it do? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't work.
Yeah, it's kind of offensive as Factory has a better order GUI than OpenTTD here.
That's an insult.
Yeah, the chat's just pointed that out.
Oh, I saw V in
Tabby
the chat earlier, so I guess it is okay to say that here.
It's okay to say that, yeah. Yeah. Have we got more to look at?
I'm going to show one cool feature I have spotted that we added recently.
Well, I can talk more about this group things.
Oh yeah, no, do.
Yeah. Do in a bit, but let me show one thing I really enjoy. Sorry, Frosh, for the disruptions. Do you know what happens these days? Yeah, we have these train names, train 1, 2, 3, and now when you drag something in a group, it changes the name to the group. That makes me so happy, these small things. Sorry, sometimes I just have to enjoy the small bits in life. Sorry, Frosh,
for those wondering, it's only changing that if we have manually renamed it, it's not going to change it.
No, it's not.
Just to make sure that nobody's screaming murder right now.
You're afraid for the
rename the trains? Does anyone rename the trains unless they are live streaming and making jokes?
I hope not. Oh, with 500 trains.
Train face.
But sorry, Frost, for the interruption. Back to you.
Yeah. Okay. So when people use these groups, they actually want also see some statistics. So and there's like also this group statistics widget here now, which shows profit this year, profit last year, and current usage, and so on. But there are actually also some PRs which are add even more information to that. Yeah, so you can take this PR, for example, and this one adds for every train in the list. It adds a headline over the train. What cargoes does this train carry currently? So this is actually also a group statistics. So we already.
This is what I wanted to Photoshop over the efficiency one and the group name, because the UI is like there's no UI left. We just have to delete the train.
Yeah, I mean the idea is one thing, but basically you can't really read anything in that window with that small text in it.
This is just one of 3, I think, that touches those lines.
Wait, now I have a good idea. What, instead of making this a graphical game, we just make it a text-based game where you can say where
Excel
train
spreadsheet.
goes from? Yeah, we're done. Okay, we solved that problem. Oh, okay.
Spreadsheet.
Yeah, so I think the solution to this one is to not add more information to the windows, which is displayed all the time, but rather add like tooltips or something like that. So particularly this information about what cargo is transported by the train, we already have in different places of the game. If you take the depot view, and if you have a train in the depot, you can press the right mouse button, and you can see what is the train carrying. We could add the same thing to the group GUI. Then you don't have to show this information all the time. You can only show it on demand. So this is kind of ugly tooltips. There are other ugly tooltips, but there are actually also patches which show a nicer tooltip. So in this case, you have a
Colors, that's pretty.
tooltip with colors and formatting and everything. So maybe we need that for the group GUI.
Magic.
I like
Or
the
we could-
colors. It's better. Colors is always better.
Unless you're red-green colorblind. We could go full Excel though. I mean, that someone in the chat has said that as well. Can we integrate with Excel?
Export
full
your
into-
game to Excel. That sounds
Can we
like a...
can we do like Office 365 integration? So you basically make it in Microsoft Cloud, and then we just simulate the results. It'd be fine.
Does anyone mind
Definitely.
if I put Andy on mute and just continue this talk?
Get a beer.
I'm sorry. Oh, this last tooltip looks amazing. That's so much better.
Yeah, so we have the same problem in different places. So if you take, for example, the window of towns, there were some game servers which wanted to show some statistics, and they complained they can only display 20 numbers with the game script interface. But so the idea was 20 numbers is actually a lot to show. But what they wanted to show is a whole spreadsheet of like 32 cargoes with 5 numbers each. So a real spreadsheet with like 60 numbers or 100 numbers or more. And I don't think that is the correct solution. I think there should be pop-ups or something like that.
Yeah, you probably have to question that. I mean, the intent is one thing, but I don't think this will pass any usability goal, no matter how low you hang it.
Yeah, so to get back to the extent, so these are also multiple PRs about the group window, and we kind of need basically just an opinion what information is actually needed to see immediately, and which information can also go into the tooltip, or which play style needs which information. There are different people who play the game differently, and everyone wants to see different information. And again, we can't add a setting for every information to show or to not show.
So let's make this a call to arms. If you have a strong opinion about this game and you have a certain playstyle you're pretty sure is not the majority, then we would love to have your input on a lot of these things. So drop by on ISC, let yourself know. And I promise you, we will bug you a lot for these kinds of questions.
Oh, and also basically, you can also say GitHub is not just for coders. I mean, our GitHub is for everyone, not just for coders. So we also want other people that spam, or maybe not spam, but give their proper opinion there.
Yeah, and to drop in on that, if my
Moddable GUI. We need a moddable GUI. This is like Roblox games. Roblox games have all this data. We need DSwarm for OpenTTD.
Yeah, do
Probably
you
a
want to
reference.
maybe show the discussions on GitHub?
I was just about to. So lately we've been trying the GitHub discussions. I have to say I quite like them, and especially the one about settings is quite a fruitful one, if I can find it. So we have, and this, not this one. Sorry,
Don't touch that
better
one.
default this one. So we have a discussion going where Tutal Tyler, he has many different names on many different platforms. I'm going to call him in his GitHub name, has written down a lot of the settings that most likely are wrong by default. And people can just vote on them, up and down, what they think about it. And it's quite useful for us. For example, we see inflation, everyone suggests off. There's no one that says, no, that's a bad idea. Well, that's very useful information. And we have some others like breakdowns on off. Well, that's not everyone agrees on that. This is so incredibly useful for us. So if you have some time, jump into the discussions, read what you find interesting, and let us know what you think is a good idea or a bad idea. I mean, disasters on. Clearly, nobody agrees with that. That's a good idea, which is fine. I mean, I'm literally fine with whatever. I have my own opinion, but we implement. You play the game, not we, as we mentioned. But we need opinions. So if you want to help out,
one thing that would also help more than just the thumbs up or thumbs down is to say whether you're mostly speaking about multiplayer or single player, because there are some big differences between what's useful for one or for the other mode.
This is particularly good because it's talking about things that are real. Like, it's not speak your brains, give us the feedback. Like, there's already places for speak your brains, give us feedback. What would you like to see in the game? This is about real choices that can be made. So these are real settings that really exist, and there's no reason to not have the best choices for them. But we don't know what the best choices are. Most of the devs don't play the game. I play every day. You know,
well,
I work harder than some.
The other settings, I cannot believe that I still default off, for example, quick creation of vehicle orders. I mean, if you play it with off, how do you manage? How do you not die just there and then? I cannot, but okay. Everyone has own opinion. Let us know what you think.
You might have memorized the shortcut G, I think, for Goto. I think that's
G,
our
yeah.
default.
But G also clears, is it G that clears orders? I don't know, there's some key that overlaps with deleting all your orders.
Yeah, so actually if you want to join the discussion, you can just start your local OpenTTD installation, and in the settings there's an option to filter the settings for all those settings where you have chosen a different value than the default value. So you can actually see which changes have you made, and then you can go through your list and see whether that change that you made is something that you consider only important to you, or would you consider that for a setting that everyone should have the way you have it.
And I think chat has a nice contribution to that. Please remember that these defaults should be for new players. So not like I playing this game for 10 years, I want this setting changed because I use it like that. No, please think like a new player. What would he have a better experience by?
Or just read the repeating, how do I do X on Reddit? Like, there are certain themes that just come up over and over again. Or just get your kids to play it. You might have to have kids first.
Everyone who plays this game differently from me plays it wrong. I think that's a good quote.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
So Frost, did you have other nice things to show us?
Yeah, so I wanted to make a small advertisement for ships. So probably every one of you knows this situation. Yeah, you have to start a new game and you build your first route with a lot of buses and transport, and then there's this one other player, yeah, and he just builds a train. Yeah, and he does what people do. Yeah, he starts a train.
Are you guilty of this? Let us know in chats. I think everyone is, so let us know.
Yeah, is there anyone other does it? Yeah, and then he stands there and just parks the train and blocks all your road vehicles, and nothing ever can happen again.
Never gets old. I love this.
Yeah, so and what to do now? Yeah. So and the solution is really you have to use ships. Yeah, because ships, yeah, trains can't hurt ships. So, so basically you can build a ship and transport the passengers with a ship, because the train can't hurt the ship. But yeah, you probably say, but ships are slow. Yeah, ships are so slow. But you have to remember there are also hovercraft. Yeah, we can even give it a name. Yeah, that makes it more powerful. Yeah, hovercraft. So now you can start a hovercraft and the train can't hurt it. Yeah, the hovercraft can just go to the station, upload the passengers.
Upload?
Yeah, load the passengers. Yeah, and there it goes. Yeah, the train won't be able to hurt it.
Oh, V says it would be a shame if someone terraformed the water.
Yeah.
V's all about the griefing.
So, and you will see, yeah, trains can't hurt with hovercraft. Yeah, you will never have problem again. Just build more ships.
Okay, which pull request do I have to merge to get this?
I think I don't have it open.
Oh. I'll find it for you.
I have it in front of me. It was not a serious question, Andy.
It would be 8421.
I'll be in JGR by next week. It'll be fine.
I really like
It goes
these.
up hills. It's flying. It needs shadow. Give it a shadow sprite.
Oh my god, this went from it can destroy a train to it needs shadows.
Look at it. It needs shadows. Otherwise, it looks like it's flying. Then it can carry 2 cargoes. Brilliant. Job done.
Gilix, it can go through buses because hovercrafts only hate trains, not buses. It's very important to remember.
But have we tested it with electrified trains?
Oh, and also, of course, I mean, that were our buses, right? I mean, we don't want to hurt our buses.
I think ships and buses are best friends. It's just the trains which are the evil ones. No one likes trains.
And what I do like about the OpenTTD community, that within 2 minutes of pushing this pull request to GitHub, we got someone saying, I do not think we should merge this. Which really makes me smile, as he's absolutely right.
I think V might come back on the basis of this. He's so excited in the chat.
Well,
He might leave Factorio and come back to the game.
If we add first-person view to that hovercraft, maybe then.
Make it a remote control.
I mean, that is a missing feature, being able to drive around.
Definitely manual control.
WSAD.
Well, only if you can make the hovercraft have legs, like 8 of them, and that it walks around that. Or did another game do this?
In the PSP port, you could drive the train. Not PSP, like some, I don't know, PlayStation 1 or something.
yeah,
you could drive the train.
The PS1 version, allegedly, you could. I mean,
Oh, V's not going to come back.
Or was that just fake? I feel like that might have been fake, but that was definitely a thing.
Right, the community is the community has voted for hovercraft, so the chat has spoken. So we'll have to go in now with shadows as well. That's how it works. Or not.
We will see. Right, thank you, Frost.
Fork. Wow, that hasn't gone as badly as we thought it would.
Well, I've been talking for 90 minutes now. We planned 30 minutes, so we're quite a bit over our own planned schedule.
Should we take some more questions?
I think that's a very good idea.
The questions of when do I get my feature, like, probably not going to get answered, but let's have a look.
Yeah, we had a question a while back. What features from GGR patch pack would you feel nice to have in trunk? Well, I had a problem with the word trunk, but we have been over that. Sorry. But I think it's a good question.
Yeah, I will give the boring answer because the most interesting feature in JGR patch pack is like the safe load code and all the compatibility with other packs.
Yeah, what GGR did very well is make feature toggles. So you can just toggle features on and off, and where in a vanilla OpenTTD that would completely break save games or make it completely horrible to maintain, there it just works in save games. It's not a problem at all, which is really cool.
I would port the Mac performance improvements. They're about 30% better than vanilla. And I built JGR in debug mode and compared it with the recent official build, and it's just substantially faster. So I'd vote for that as a minority community of the one Mac user.
And if you walk to the list of things that are in there, there's so many things that are cool, but I do not know if they belong in vanilla. One of the oldest ones is, I believe it's also in GGR copy-paste. That is this kind of thing that we have been back and forth for years now. Should that be in vanilla, yes or no? But also things like extra large maps. Well, 8K by 8K is already insanely big. And you can make, I believe, 16K by 16K maps, which is like, which normal processor can handle that? I don't know. So there are also a few I'm like, no, we're good. But others, there are some good ones in there.
Copy paste is it seems really easy, right? I'd be like, just put copy paste in. But then people who are running competitive multiplayer, they don't want copy paste because you just win the competitive multiplayer game by just copying huge junctions everywhere, flatten the map, copy paste, win. So the multiplayer server owners don't want it. So then it has to be a setting to turn it on and off. And then it's another setting. And it's it seems really straightforward, but it's not because the game has to do so many things.
The thing I also had issue with copy paste is the fact that it only works on the same length. So if you're very hilly, what are you going to do with copy paste then? Is it going to adjust for the hilly parts? Is it going to automatically do sloping and stuff like that? Or does it terraform? Or how does that look?
And how many bug reports do you want to read about esoteric edge cases that don't work? And yeah.
Speaking of edge cases, I mean, something like infrastructure sharing is also basically a giant edge case for things that can go wrong in some way.
Yeah, but I really like it. I wrote so many patches to implement it. I never got it right because there are always things that you're like, okay, I cannot solve this edge case. Damn, it's nice to have.
Yeah, but why do you even need infrastructure sharing? Yeah, so now you can put vehicles in groups and can give every group a different livery, and then it essentially looks the same as if you had different companies.
Yeah,
so what's the difference between companies other than the color?
Nowadays, maybe a fair point, but what I really liked it for is for the co-op games, where just one company made all the infrastructure and the other people played the game. Like, I don't care about playing the game. I just want to build rails and junctions and.
Oh, and some people might also say because we dare to make the limit of 5,000 vehicles per company.
Good point. I'm looking at the list of GGR. There's just so many cool things in there. But yeah, given a limited amount of time, we can make all these patches, well, some of them in vanilla.
We've got a patch for auto separation, which seems to be one of the most community requested. And we haven't got a JDR patch, but someone's put a PR in for auto separate, which seems to work, except I crashed it using my remarkable ability to crash things. But that seems to be highly requested. And I see a lot of discussions about timetables, and it turns out they're really about auto separating your buses, which I tried. And I'm like, why didn't I auto separate my buses before? It makes sense. It's fine.
The biggest problem with the auto separation patch is more to do with it's yet another button in the UI. I mean, it's again a button in the UI.
I'd trade it off against deleting all the rest of timetables. That'd get rid of a button, right? One in, one out.
If you can delete the rest of the timetables, that's worth considering.
But someone will turn up with their save game that's ruined by that. So it's kind of tricky.
Oh, don't forget all these. I mean, my save game that's exactly replicating the Republic of Banana in 1973 is now broken because the minutes don't match up anymore.
Yep. Auto separate is super broken. No, I don't know, maybe.
Well, you crashed it at least.
I crashed it. What else is in the chat? And have we missed any of the? How are we doing on your agenda, Truebrain? Is there anything else we were going to cover?
No, I wanted to take some questions, and I think we then spoken more than long enough. Well, I'm also quite curious if people like this kind of format to talk about stuff. I mean, it's our first time ever, so looking this back will be horrible. I'm not going to. So do you like this kind of thing? Should we do this more often?
Or do you want to see actual code instead of just talking?
I'm reading the chat. Thanks, those putting nice things in the chat. It gives us hope that we're not just screaming into the void.
There are people actually listening.
If I want to scream into the void, I can open my window and just shout out there. It's fine. Yeah, this is good. Good comments. Thanks. It's appreciated. Truebrain did a lot of the work to get this. I mean, if I'd done it, we'd have been all talking into one Zoom thing, and it wouldn't have worked. But he's made it. He's made it semi-professional, which is nice.
Yeah, with a lot of help of Xerath, gotta say that. I did very little myself. Just someone told me press this button, press that button, and press that button.
And the Discord crew helped, which was really good. The Discord crew are it's good. Thanks.
The OpenTTD Reddit Discord crew is quite important to add because there's more than one Discord for OpenTTD.
Oh God, are there more? I can't
yes.
keep up.
Yeah, you now started a fight between them, so I'm not sure how we're going to survive this one.
All right. Well, I just went with the one that's got the logo on it. I mean, it looks official.
Please stop talking. This is not making it better.
The things I don't know. My ignorance is unbounded.
There might have even been edit wars on the old wiki, which Discord is in which place.
I'm too old for drama now. I won't mention previous. I've been around all the dramas and I'm done with them. Someone else, younger people can do dramas. I have enough.
So yeah, I think we're going to close down the stream today, guys. If you have any more questions or just want to know something, just drop by on IC on Discord and just bug us. That's not a problem, never. And we will see about another live stream, like TD, like once in a while, not every week. Don't worry. I want to thank Frosh, Michi, Arrow, and Andy for showing up and speaking today. It's much appreciated. As Andy said, he might have talked to Zoom, but I might have talked alone here on stream. I don't know what's worse. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you, chat. It was lovely. And well, I will say see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks.